Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to dig into Elon Musk's vision for the future. And it's a vision that really hits on our biggest anxieties. Things like job security and the cost of living. He kind of lays out two possible paths for us. One is full of hope, and the other, well, it's full of fear. So, which one are we actually headed for? Let's try and figure it out.
So this is really where our whole story kicks off. A recent poll found that almost half of all Americans would actually rather live in the past than the future. I mean, that's a pretty shocking number, right? And it really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. Why does the future feel so intimidating to so many of us? The way this whole thing is framed is with a choice, using two futures that, let's be honest, we all know from the movies. So which one is it going to be? Are we building the amazing, hopeful world of Star Trek, where humanity thrives? Or are we steering down the barrel of something more like Terminator, with conflict and rogue AI? That's the big question on the table. Okay, so to figure that out, we have to face the biggest elephant in the room, head on: the impact of artificial intelligence. Now, Musk does not mince words on this. He calls what's coming a supersonic tsunami. And that's not just a fancy phrase. It's meant to get across the sheer scale and, honestly, the almost terrifying speed at which this wave of change is coming at us. To really wrap your head around what this means for jobs, there's this great analogy. Think about this. It wasn't that long ago that the word computer wasn't a machine. It was a job title for a person. You'd have entire skyscrapers filled with people, literally human computers, crunching numbers all day. Today, one person with one laptop and a spreadsheet can do more work than all of them combined. That is the level of disruption we are talking about. Okay, so here's the number that's a real wake-up call. Right now, AI can already perform half or even more of all white-collar information-based jobs. And get this isn't some far-off sci-fi prediction. The technology to do this exists today. And the speed of all this, it's just mind-boggling. The prediction is that artificial general intelligence, or AGI, could possibly be here as soon as next year. And by 2030, just a few years away, AI is expected to be smarter than all of humanity combined. Just let that sink in for a second. Okay, I know, that all sounds pretty scary, right? A little bit doom and gloom, but here's where the story takes a turn. What happens when we point this incredible technology at some of our biggest, most stubborn problems? Things that affect all of us, like crazy energy costs and healthcare. So let's talk about something that hits all of us in the wallet: energy bills. Musk's whole approach here boils down to one simple, back-to-basics idea. The sun is everything. It's the ultimate source of power. And he has this brilliant, kind of funny way of explaining why he's so big on solar. He says, look, we have a gigantic, free fusion reactor that shows up in the sky every single day. Trying to build little fusion reactors down here on Earth, he says that's like building a tiny little ice cube maker in the middle of Antarctica. It just doesn't make sense. So what does this mean for our power bills? Well, it leads to a surprisingly simple fix. The crazy thing is, the US only uses about half of its peak power capacity. So you've got all this leftover energy, especially at night. What if we could just save it? By using big batteries to store all that unused juice, we could literally double the country's energy output. And the best part, we wouldn't need to build a single new power plant. And this same idea, applying new tech to really old problems, it applies to healthcare too. And this is where it gets really wild. The question was asked, how long until a humanoid robot could perform surgery with more skill and more precision than the very best human surgeon on the planet? The prediction? Just 3 years. That's it. It just shows how fast this could change everything. All right, so if we've got AI and robots tackling huge things like energy and health, where does this all lead? What's the endgame here? Well, this brings us to the final part of the vision, what some are calling an age of abundance. This brings us to a big idea called universal high income, or UHI. And it's really important to understand, this isn't being talked about as some government handout. The idea is that it's just a natural result of all this new technology. When AI and robots can make things so efficiently, goods and services become so incredibly cheap and plentiful that our whole relationship with money could change forever. So how in the world would that even work? Well, the logic is actually pretty straightforward. It's like a 3-step process. Step 1, AI and robots start making way more stuff, way more efficiently. Step 2, because of that, the cost of everything just plummets. Which leads to Step 3, a world where pretty much everyone has access to the things they need. Okay, I can hear what you're thinking. This all sounds a little too good to be true, right? A bit utopian? Well, even Musk himself puts the brakes on a little bit. He's pretty upfront about it, saying his real worry isn't the final destination, it's the journey to get there. He says the next 3 to 7 years are going to be bumpy.
So the big question is, how do we get through that bumpy road? There was a comment from a viewer in the source material that it really nails it. They said, some of this will be right and some will be wrong. But what's certain is that we must keep learning. And isn't that the truth? With all this change, maybe the only thing we can really count on is our ability to adapt and keep learning. And that really brings us to the final, biggest question of all. If technology solves the problem of scarcity, if we don't have to work just to pay the bills and survive, then what? The challenge isn't about technology anymore. It's about us. It's about being human. In a future where you can have anything you want, what will actually give your life meaning? That's the question we're all going to have to answer.